Chapter 17. The Sacredness of the Everyday. Ordinary gestures as ritual. It is easy to pass through a day without noticing the smallest movements that keep it together. We wash dishes, fold laundry, turn keys in locks, and set a table without thought, as if these actions were only background noise. Yet it is these gestures, repeated across days, months, and years, that quietly hold the shape of a life. They are so familiar that we often stop seeing them at all, even though they store memory as faithfully as any photograph or written record. Within the ghost movement, the ordinary is not placed apart from what is sacred, nor treated as a lesser form of presence. Sacredness does not require a temple, a rare event, or a formal structure. A simple act, such as sweeping a floor, boiling water for tea, or opening a window to the morning air, can carry the same depth as any recognized ritual. The gesture itself is not the sacred element. It is the attention that infuses it, the way it holds us in connection with memory, care, and presence. The power of these everyday actions lies in their repetition. They are the quiet framework of our lives, the invisible beams that hold the walls steady, while the visible parts shift and change. When life becomes uncertain, these acts can take on the weight of anchors. The same motion of stirring a pot, folding a blanket, or turning down a bed can remind us of continuity when everything else feels unstable. They do not need to be declared as rituals. Their strength is that they work in the background, unnoticed yet dependable, carrying the thread of presence from one day to the next. Take the making of a bed. Each morning, hands smooth the fabric, adjust the pillows, and tuck the edges. The action might take less than a minute, but over years it gathers meaning. It becomes a mark of care for the space you rest in, a gesture of closure to one part of the day and readiness for another. It holds the memory of mornings in different seasons, the way light shifts across the sheets in summer and winter, the texture of new bedding after an old set has worn thin. It is more than tidying. It is a quiet act of keeping order in a world that can so easily feel scattered. In this way, the smallest gestures can become living rituals. They are not defined by ceremony or by spoken intention, but by the way they build stability into the everyday. A kettle filled and set to boil, a broom drawn across the floor, a window unlatched to let in cool air, each becomes a point of return. What makes them sacred is not the object or the act in isolation, but the relationship they hold with time. Through repetition, they link today with yesterday, and yesterday with years long gone. They often carry the trace of other hands too, parents, grandparents, neighbours, strangers, all of whom once made the same motions in their own kitchens, gardens and rooms. To recognise the sacred in the everyday is to understand that meaning is not reserved for rare or extraordinary events. Much of it is woven quietly into the spaces where life actually happens. These gestures leave their imprint on the body, on the senses, and on the emotional landscape. They become part of the body's memory, shaping the way we move and respond without conscious thought. Repetition creates this embodied memory. The way you hold a mug without looking, the familiar knot in your fingers when tying laces, the curve of your back as you tend to a garden bed. All of these are stored in muscle and movement. Even when mental memory fades, the body often remembers. The senses carry their own archives too. The smell of bread baking that returns you to a kitchen from childhood, the sound of a key turning that signals safety, the texture of a worn jumper that speaks of belonging. These are not empty details. They are evidence that the ordinary holds the history of our lives. Many gestures carry emotion without our realizing. Folding a partner's clothes might hold tenderness. Preparing a meal in silence could carry sorrow. Lighting a candle might stir hope. These feelings do not have to be named. They remain in the act itself, stored like water in the fibres of cloth. Some actions are inherited. The way you slice fruit might mirror your father's hands. The way you arrange flowers may echo a grandparent's care. Often these patterns are learned without intention, passed invisibly down through repetition. Noticing the everyday in this way does not mean altering your routine to make it more meaningful. It means recognizing what is already there. You might identify the actions that repeat most in your life, the gestures you return to without thinking, They could be preparing breakfast, feeding a pet, checking the latch on a gate, or greeting a neighbour in passing. These form your personal rhythm, the understated structure that holds your days together. You might also find that slowing down a gesture changes your relationship to it. Pouring water more slowly, feeling its weight and temperature, might shift it from function to presence. Opening a window and pausing to notice the change in air before moving on might connect you more deeply to that moment. None of this requires more time or effort, only a willingness to meet the act with attention. When a gesture has been learned from someone else, there is value in acknowledging them, even silently. You might think of a parent as you use a tool they once held, or feel the presence of a friend as you cook a dish they once shared with you. In this way, the everyday becomes a conversation between the living and the remembered. Ordinary gestures can also serve as thresholds in a day. Lighting a candle when evening falls, making a pot of tea after work, or putting away the day's clutter before sleep, these acts signal shifts between states. They give form to time without the need for strict schedules. Perhaps the most significant shift is to stop separating the important from the ordinary. Preparing a sandwich, hanging out washing, or sweeping a path can be as meaningful as any grand occasion if they are carried out with presence. The scale of the act matters less than the attention you give it. Through this attention, daily life becomes a form of living ritual, without the need to add anything extra. Most of life happens in the ordinary, in the sound of water filling a kettle, in the light caught on a freshly made bed, in the shared moment of setting a table. When seen this way, these gestures become a way of offering care both to ourselves and to those we share space with. They keep us rooted in the present while connecting us to the long line of days and hands behind us. The everyday is both mirror and bridge. It reflects who we are now and how we choose to live, while also carrying us forward into what will come. To walk with awareness of these gestures is to honour the steady ways we keep showing up for life. From here, we turn to the idea that ritual does not need to be formal or visible to others. Even the smallest acts, carried out without any frame of ceremony, can hold the same depth as the most deliberate gathering. Presence can live quietly, carried by repetition, without needing to be displayed.